region, and I am really excited to welcome this amazing guests of operators, designers, architects, and at the end, of course, everybody knows Yanel, who is on the control side. But I wanted to get this group together because this is very different than our normal chats. And the reason being is because we all never see these people at our events. So I wanted to start the talk off a little bit about wellness. And what exactly does wellness mean? Is this a condition? Is this something spiritual? Will it affect how you feel or how you see, or perhaps both? So across generations, and that we've been preoccupied with our personal well-being, and boomers strive to ravage the time. Millennials aim to optimize their personal fitness. We are jam-packed with wearable apps, healthy eating blogs, fitness mashups, endless pop-ups to ensure us into believing that if we become disciples, we will live forever. And my question is that for us as designers in a community, how does health and wellness, how do we ensure that through design? So I'm going to start with David, and then maybe Diane and Vida, and then let's come back around to our operators, because I think sort of this full circle conversation would be fabulous. So David, how do we as designers improve the guest's wellness experience through design?
Am I on?
No. Okay. Diane, how do we improve wellness through design?
Well, I think wellness is similar to when we talk about sustainability. What would really be interesting for us as an industry is if this was legislated as part of the design process, and if designers and architects were actually held accountable through some kind of certification. What's really interesting for me is when we have conversations, for example, with our Tokyo team, and we mention wellness, they think that it's such a strange concept because wellness is actually part of their lives, and it's integrated into every single part of every experience in hospitality in Japan. They have their onsens, and they have really extraordinary like sand bathing and experiences which enhance their well-being, but it's completely integrated into a lifestyle. So I think the challenge for us as an industry, particularly in this region, is how do we actually change the thinking and the mindset of owners and operators to integrate every aspect at every single touch point within any of the facilities that focuses on wellness, from the lighting, the air quality, the small minuscule details. But how do we influence and shape and change the lifestyle? I think that's what I would suggest.
Good. Very good. David, do you have any comments on that?
Am I hooked up?
Oh, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Well, I would tend to agree, of course, with Diane, as we usually do. There are kind of two sides to wellness, I suppose. Well, not two sides, but if I had to deduce, because at H+A we do hospitality and healthcare, right? So we approach healthcare from a very clinical perspective, our hospitality work from, I would call, more the wellness perspective, which wellness kind of implies that it's more, elective, than prescribed. And so to balance the two, we find that there is still quite a disconnect between the kind of tangible benefits of wellness and conversely on the healthcare side. So for in our facilities, for example, we are looking at ways to reduce stress in the simplest of terms, because on the healthcare side, stress is of course proven to have long-term, this is of course no long-term benefits to stress, chronic disease, all of this. Secondly, things related to sleep. So to reduce stress and to improve sleep are two fundamental aspects of wellness that we look at in our, particularly for our hospitality project. So how does one reduce stress? Well, it kind of starts all the way from the booking procedure, and I'll let the operator speak more about that. But when one arrives at the facility, Is their journey seamless? Are they greeted properly? Is there a place to sit comfortably? Is there legibility and wayfinding? Because everyone knows when they're lost, whether it be in a car or a building, it inflicts stress on the body. So all of this, always putting ourselves from the kind of guest perspective. What is that guest journey, and what are these guest experiences that we can reduce stress? And on the other side of that, to create experiences which then enhance serotonin levels, right? So serotonin also, it not only improves your mood, but there are long-term health benefits around this. So I'm very careful when I talk about wellness not to talk about it in a kind of greenwashing, way as we do on sustainability. That wellness is something measurable, it's tangible, and actually the physical fabric of the environments that we create can have an actual real impact. I mean, Diane mentioned fresh air, for example, and fresh air is absolutely key in buildings. And frankly, if this is real talk, there's not a single building probably in this country that meets the real fresh air requirements that is required to actually contribute to our well-being and lifestyle and wellness.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say, because I can talk a very long time, about these kind of things, is that it's yes, it is a lifestyle, and one has to be very cognizant of the fact that we can only do so much in one facility for that particular moment that one is in the building, and we must, yes, as I agree with Diane, promote more lifestyle aspects. Having a kale salad one day and eating burgers 3 other days, you might get that immediate gratification and satisfaction, but it's not long term. So it's about the buildings, but it's about how we as buildings and operators and kind of thought leaders can promote ideas beyond bricks and mortar, and it's a tall task, but I think these kind of forums help in that.
Okay. So light by nature has an invisible impact on the body and mind through multiple variations, but so the circadian rhythm is a huge topic these days, and because it's the first associated, from a lighting standpoint, it's the first associated with wellness. Now, we see increase in that from our clients these days as they're more interested in the idea of the circadian rhythm and how that would affect, particularly in the guest rooms. But do you think that that has a place in the F&Bs? Do you think it has a place in the lobby experience? Obviously guests come from all different types of areas in the world. They come at all different times. They might be jet lagged. They might, have had a very long journey on their way. So, I asked this question to some other designers a few weeks ago, and they were saying like, no, it's about the show and it's about that first impact and the drama. But I tend to think that, that should start from the second that you arrive to all the touch points that you both have mentioned, and also, yes, when you get into your guest rooms. But do you think that it has a place in the public spaces as well as the F&Bs? And Christian, I'll ask you.
You've opened the big box, Courtney. Thank you very much. And I think really honored, obviously, as an operator and food and beverage creator of concepts to be with this esteemed panel around, because light, and I'm extremely passionate about light as an operator and concept creator from an operating concept. And I want to really rule this right out. I'm not an interior designer, I'm not a light expert. I'm a cook and I'm a waiter to pull proper teams together, but ultimately to curate. And I want to really just take it into maybe a different spin. We all know Blade Runner, the movie Blade Runner. Yeah. And I have a little bit of segment around it, because curating a movie, a scene, takes multiple components. And I think when we look at in creating food and beverage spaces, especially within Hilton, bespoke concepts, and we are on a line of prototypes and a line of bespoke concepts to put those elements together. From an operator, I think the experience starts from the arrival where you get out of your car. The experience actually starts, and not going to drift in, starts with when you make your booking, when you start deciding. That goes through communication, and I think getting to the light element, I say always a good concept that it could be a simple coffee cart, it could be an ice cream counter, it could be a lobby. There is 50% of every great F&B concept contains acoustics and lights. Then we have the food and the beverage, and then of course the biggest element around the team who can maneuver it. And I think Do we have a challenge, if you ask me, within the hospitality industry to get that right? 100%. Especially within bigger developments. And I think listening to David, what he said as well, you know, we always see those big giant hotels, 400 rooms with all these areas, and then you come down onto the ground floor where you arrive, oops, we forgot about it. How many times have we walked, and we do it daily, and I'm sure you did it today, into a restaurant with an open kitchen, and you look at a big light bulb. Now, good lighting sets an orchestration of amazing operational maneuvering around ultimately, just like a movie. But you as an operator have to have the opportunity to play that movie, to curate the movie on the time of day and work that through. So my big request really to all of you out there, and especially to other expertise within creating magical places, is please help us as operators find the light. You know, we've got a hotel design lead on the panel, and you know, help us find this light. And I think I speak from an operations side again, and very passionate because it has so many components. And light is one, and it translates into Instagrammability. It translates into communication, which we all know in these days is not about a billboard on the street. It's all about social media. A great shot of an experience goes viral is right there. And I think we've got plenty of examples out there. And so we move here.
And Alexandro, how do you feel? I mean, what are some of the other aspects that you guys are thinking about right now for health and wellness? Obviously, dare I say the C word, but the C word is still here. And how are you thinking now? Because, you know, I personally just traveled for the first time in 2 years, and what a different experience that was for me. You know, coming from, I think we all travel a lot, and living in Dubai, we're very fortunate to be able to quickly jump on a plane, travel the world, get inspiration, and come back. But wow, was that first moment of booking very different from the time I went to the airport to the time I then landed, by the time I finally got to my destination. And are you guys thinking about, you know, ways to kind of help that ease of transition for the potential guests that are coming to your properties?
Yeah, sure, of course. I think that the main idea of our hotels and the way we do things is basically to make you feel happy when you arrive, to make you feel relaxed, to trust people, to see the smiles, to see happy people around you, to feel the vibe of their warmth, of their welcoming, relaxed people, multifunctional places. And we also try to change the services and the welcome that is actually existing, not in a traditional way, but in a way that our reception is not the reception desk, it's actually the coffee shop.
Yeah.
So we try to skip all these basic standards that we used to do 10 years and 20 years ago. So we try to reinvent the space entirely and to develop experiences that are not expected, that are comfortable, fluid, that makes our guests really feel inspired by the ambience, inspire them to stay in the hotel and not to run away to the neighbor restaurant or to book something, you know, outside. So we try to create the ambience that is dynamic, surprising, warm, what is comfortable, adaptable for different times of the day. Like you can have a breakfast in the morning in the lobby, and you can watch the movie in the night because the lobby changed, the lighting changed, the atmosphere, the music, the people who actually help you in the lobby. We don't say that they are the reception managers, you know. They are part of the community. They dress the same, they smile, they talk to you in a casual way. Hi, how are you? How can I help you? Shall we have a coffee? Instead of your room is number 300.
Right, exactly. Here's your key, and or you know, I mean, we see a big trend right now with touchless guest entries, and obviously, I personally feel that it kind of goes against the grain of what hospitality is, and you know, very strange to you know, be dragging your luggage, even if you're dropped off in a taxi or you know, an Uber, and you're dropped off, and it's, you know, you see a sign, and then you're supposed to download an app, and you're supposed to use that app to get into the building, and then you're supposed to use that app to then activate. So it's literally a contactless hotel environment. And I personally, I mean, like, I can't imagine that is like a place that I would want to visit. Vida, what do you feel about that? Because I think that, you know, the days now where, you know, we're strapped to our phones and we have a million, you know, messages and Instagram and all these things. I mean, do you think that's an actual wave for the future? Or do you think that's a reaction, again, to the pandemic situation that has happened? Because we see lots of these crazy out-of-the-box, you know, concepts coming through from architects all over the world. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, very loud. So I think it has two sides to it. Sorry, it's very loud. I think it has two sides to it. So one side is it can be very beneficial because we are going towards that kind of touchless environment and everything is digitalized. So it can become a very personalized experience. We are seeing already a lot of apps and a lot of F&Bs, for example, taking on the approach where the more we collect about the people, by the time we enter the F&B restaurants, the waiters can offer specialized wine selections or food selections based on what they know that person likes or have liked in the past. The same way towards hotel, you know, that sort of personalization that allows you, yes, you come in with your own phone, but you don't need to touch, you know, the million buttons on your way to your room. That means that you can immediately just go through with a small scan. And once you get in the room at the same time, you can watch your own Netflix. You can immediately connect to your own social media. You can actually just, again, feel like you're at home away from home, because with all of the remote working and other kind of trends which are going in the industry right now, people don't want to feel like we have to detach and relearn how to experience new places each time. But on the opposite side, there's a lot of worry about, obviously, with data protection, other things which come to that, and the connection with other people, which you kind of lose from that. Yeah. So whilst the introvert people might prefer the less contact with day-to-day sort of engagements with real staff, it loses that sort of day-to-day experiences we're used to, especially now after 2 years, everyone kind of been deprived of that. I think people will try to go back and reconnect with people, reconnect with the industry, the hospitality sector itself. So I think it's going to be a while until we find the perfect balance between the two.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, from a controls perspective, because obviously this gets into technology, and Lutron being, you know, one of the many manufacturers that supplies and works with us as the hospitality industry, how do you feel about that? I mean, when is techie too techie?
Yeah. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Excellent, okay. So yes, I mean, I guess the biggest barrier in adopting any technology is the intuition. Whatever you deploy in a design space, it must be intuitive to use. It shouldn't feel alien, right? What we do before we roll out a product line or a system solution, we mock it up in an actual hotel room, let people come and stay for free, and then they will fill out a survey. We collect data on the user experience, and then we go into the design board once again. We change things, and then eventually roll it out. So the best way to test intuition is an actual human experience, right? And that's what we do, and that's what I would recommend anyone who's trying to deploy a high-tech system. What we see now, we talked about this yesterday here actually, which touches the topic in relation to, you know, COVID-19 measures and all, is voice control. You definitely need to have a human experience in the reception counter. You definitely need to have a human experience in all parts of the hospitality space. But you can perhaps limit a lot of the physical interaction with voice control. And again, the biggest barrier is intuition, because you shouldn't feel like you are speaking to a machine. You should feel like you are actually speaking to a butler or a person, right? So what we are trying to do is to work on an AI system where it will be a conversational talk with the machine. Instead of saying, set all temperatures to 34 degrees Celsius, you would say, I feel cold, you know, and the machine would understand what you're doing.
Okay. I kind of like that. At least you're not saying, Siri, can I? Okay. Just getting a little bit more into sustainable hospitality and travel, which You know, sustainability has become on the forefront of design these days, particularly because we noticed when less cars were driving that in Dubai particularly, you could see the blue sky. Now, how do you think that the pandemic has kind of impacted that, and do you see a rise in that from clients? Because similarly, in tourism and hotels, working towards introducing more eco-friendly options for the guests. Do you see a rise in this? Because I mean, personally, if I have kind of an eco-friendly option, less carbon footprint, destination, I want to go experience that because it's fascinating on many levels as a designer and somebody that likes to travel. But how do you all feel about that? And what do you think, what steps are you guys taking to make sure that that this is at the forefront of the design industry kind of as a whole and the hospitality industry as a whole as we move forward?
Me?
You.
Well, what do we do? And I think the pandemic we have all experienced and gone through and still do in certain areas a bit more and some bit less. I think actually has accelerated us within the operational bit of food and beverage within hotel operations. Has also set us back a little bit. Remember before the pandemic we were all about no plastic, no more plastic, no more straws, and we came with all the different solutions. Unfortunately we were forced a little bit back into plastic of a protectional measure. So I think that's one where we've actually slowed down and we're picking up. Now Hilton in itself was founded 102 years ago now by Conrad Hilton, and 102 years ago, his main statement was, fill the world with light and warmth of hospitality. Light. And I think that light has translated out into all the different commitments which come along, and I think sustainability to the point really coming is a major commitment for us. And I think we as an organization, not just within that region, globally, operating over 6,800 hotels now globally with different brands, sustainability is absolutely in the forefront, and we clearly stick to our 2030 goals. Now, sustainability is cutting the carbon footprint, and as a good example, we've just launched across the UAE last week over the Arabian Hospitality Investment Conference, Growth of the UAE, a fully curated menu, not 3 courses, you've got 12 different selections in there, Growth of the UAE, cutting carbon footprint, looking at it locally. Furthermore, big focus obviously on waste. I think that's a huge one. The whole waste management strategy of new development, especially when we work with the colleagues here, we talk about it all day long. Actually, we never really get it properly in. Giving back to the Mother Earth ultimately, even in Dubai and in the sense. And then, of course, around creating concepts, I think the sustainability part and going into the element of, again, simple, contactless control mechanisms, and I think we need to speed up on it, and I really loved what you said. Now, I personally not a fan. I do stay in hotels weekly, where travel gets me back out. The most frustrating thing, and I'm sure we share all of that, is all those light systems in the room. Until you get to bed on your first night, it takes you around 10 minutes because you jump in and out, and then one thing blinks here and one thing flicks here. But within the food and beverage space. But I want to really link as a last point on to that, and sustainability is good, automation is good, but don't forget the human touch, especially in food and beverage. I'm absolutely passionate, single point of responsibility within hotels, within a lobby lounge, not the manager and the director and the GM. A business is only successful when in operation, when the person on the floor in charge of the concept and whatever they deliver is singly responsible. But that person needs to have a certain element of common sense to realize, oops, the clouds are coming, my light is too low. Now, we don't want to give him all the handles and the switches, but where it really needs to go back again, and the same is with sound. How many times do we walk in and say, whoa, something is super awkward here? Nobody realizes it. So the human element is always needed. We are emotional people. We're driven on experiences. We are driven on experiences which create memories. And I think the light element of those things need to be maneuvered, but more importantly, when we do developments, capex, renovations, and I ask you please as well on behalf of ourselves, you gotta be insisting we need those light experts if you don't carry them within in-house. because we as operators feel it in the end, but it's too late. We don't see each other much anymore. We talk about it and so on. So I think creating the sustainability, it's a chain of multiples, and we have those commitments. We're very passionate. We keep driving, and I think we have accelerated actually through COVID in many elements. We've also slowed down a little bit, but we're all picking it up. And 2030 are our goals there, and then we'll go into 2040. But you got to look long term and short term, because we're changing cultures here and behaviors. So.
I mean, for us as lighting designers, and there's a lot in the room and a lot of people that are very passionate about lighting, and the game changed 10 years ago for us. I'm from the generation where we actually were specifying incandescent lamps and fluorescents, and but the game changed 10 years ago, and now I haven't had an incandescent lamp in a project of mine in the last 8 years. That's a great thing. What we are, working on behind the scenes, and in our experiences, and everybody kind of on this panel, is that we start talking about sustainability very early on, and the importance of all working together from the beginning to make sure what we are selling to our clients is what is then in operation in the end. And I think you touched on the tactile quality, which Alexandra and I were talking about before. And as a lighting designer, if I walk into a guest room and I can't figure out how to turn on and off the lights, and I can't figure out what I'm doing within 10 minutes, I think that guest room has completely failed. And I can only imagine how frustrating that is for the guests that come and experience. And I think...
And I want to just add to that, because you spoke about wellness before, and I don't want to talk about operational wellness now. If you get that right, that's part of wellness. We provide in hospitality multi-different experiences, either for the business traveler or for the leisure customer. But we've also experienced, I think, over the last 5 years, and we specifically, that city is the best example. We've built all those business hotels, ballrooms, meeting rooms, the works. Now those business models have changed. They're actually weekdays business, and the business traveler stays on to go into leisure on the weekends.
Right.
Now, if I can't provide those experiences through simple light switches, you're absolutely spot on.
Yep.
Your wellness of experience, the concept of wellness, is already damaged.
Yes, exactly, because your stress level has gone from like, oh my God, I'm finally in the room and I can take off my shoes and I can grab a glass of water, and then you're fiddling with the lights and you spend 15 minutes doing that. I mean, how ridiculous is that for you to have to even go through that? And that spikes your stress level. So obviously that's against any kind of wellness for your mind. And so, yeah, very interesting. Personally, I like the rotary dimmer. I mean, we're asked all the time, how many scenes do you want in a guest room? I'm like, max 2. I mean, you don't need any more scenes than that. It's a welcome scene, and I like to say relax, because then on that, if we do have to get into this complicated raising and lowering, let the actual guests control their own scene. So you might say, okay, this is my relaxed scene, or maybe you have a work scene if you're a business hotel, but why on earth do you need a dining scene, a party scene? Because that's in my head, and maybe the team that was on the project, but not necessarily the guest that's coming. So I think, okay, scenes, important to kind of set that mood, work with the operators from the beginning, the designers, the architects, the control manufacturers, but giving back that tactile quality. And that doesn't have to necessarily be a raise lower button anymore. That could be a rotary dimmer that is just raise lower. And at my personal residence, that's what I have, because I turn on and off a light. If I don't like how bright it is, I know that I can dim it down. Interesting. David,
actually,
do you
just
want
to add to your story about the dimming, we built a mock-up room here in Dubai for one of our super famous brands. We built a room without any downlight. There is no any downlight in any space. All room is built on the concept of the ambient lighting. And also it's controlled by one dimming device. You don't have so many buttons, and you don't get confused. It's just one rotating, like a dimming system, and you can control either the temperature of light, if you want to have a colder light, like higher than 4,000 Kelvin, or you can go to
a warmer? So it's like a warm dim technology.
So there are two functions that we can play with, is with a more intense light or with a warmer lighting, and you can create your own scene. and you don't need to go somewhere and to change the lighting. It's all in one, and it's also the master switch, so it's easy controlled. It's just the one feature.
Just one simple button. My, how times have
And
changed. We've
yeah,
kind of
right.
gone 360 in the last 15 years, I think, in terms of like what people really want and what they really use. And I think it's our job as designers to, help magnify that. So, David, Di, do you have any comments on that?
I mean, I did want to add one thing to the lighting, and it kind of goes back to the light in public spaces that we touched on, circadian rhythm. Light has a direct impact on mood. I mean, it's kind of measurable in a way. And not only mood, but also behavior, so particularly in food and beverage, particularly in lobby areas, which lobbies have a different function during checkout time than checkout time. They have a different function when they have a breakfast service versus a dinner service, and we're all now doing a little bit more with less in all hotels. We don't have 5 restaurants anymore. Usually we have 1 or 2. They need to be very dynamic and adaptable, and the lighting is absolutely key in this. Diane and I worked for GHM on a project where it's very important, from exactly that breakfast service to the evening service. We actually worked together on that, now that I think of it. And we're seeing that still now through all operators. Ian Schrager famously, pays a lot of attention to lighting in his Edition hotels because he believes that lighting can contribute to revenue, so to speak. So you're having a glass of water over a business meeting around 3 or 4. All of a sudden, the lighting has changed. I was like, oh, is it time for a sundowner in a way? And that's all through lighting and atmosphere. We use this term atmosphere a lot as designers, I would say, but again, I'm very tangible in the way I think. So what is atmosphere? What does that mean? And how can we control it and create it? And lighting is absolutely at the core of this. The circadian lighting thing, I think is a little bit different, because again, circadian suggests that it has some clinical measurable, benefit that puts us on our schedule, and our health and well-being now is all of a sudden fixed by lighting. I think that's overselling it. I think we always should take a step back and ensure that we don't overpromise, what lighting, can achieve, and find those compromises kind of straight away. So, our credibility remains high, and this is kind of across the board, because now these things are showing fruit in a way, and a client looks at that and says, well, you made me spend all this money on the system, and I don't know, are my guests healthier, and do they really benefit?
Yeah.
Well, no, the 2 scenes are quite okay. The thing that improves our circadian rhythm is, do we go to bed on time, and do we wake up on time, and are we looking at the phone, before we go to bed? And that again goes back to the lifestyle, discussion. So very controlled, very methodical, very measurable in the way that we talk about lighting, mood, and atmosphere. And I think, there's more benefit in that than trying to do everything, with lights.
I love that, because, I can't remember the last time I went to a hotel and I went down for dinner and I came back and the turn down service was there, and it was very simple. It has like a nice mint with like a beautiful glass of water. It's by the bedside. It's all those things that you look for when you're trying to wind down and you've just come back to your room. And some of that I've seen it kind of disappear, and to me that's a shame, because it's about the brand identity, and it's about bringing that forward, and again that tactile quality that we seem to miss sometimes in these kind of like new techie environments. I was telling Andrea about a couple years ago I went to Singapore, and I stayed in, and yes, I will lamely say the name, but I stayed in a hotel called Social House, and Social House is just kind of like a transient boutique hotel in the city. And I forgot my toothbrush at the previous hotel, so I called down to reception, and there was a human that answered the phone. So, you think, okay, this is fine. Can you please just send up a toothbrush? And I'm waiting, and I'm changing, and I'm ready to go down for dinner, and all of a sudden the doorbell rings of the room, and I look out at the people, and I see nobody standing there. So I'm like, that's weird. So I go back, and I'm, carry on this exercise, and then again it rings again. And I'm like, this is really weird. And I look again, there's nobody there. I go, and I'm like, okay, now I'm getting a little freaked out. This is, right out of a scene of a horror movie. And the phone rings, and I'm like, okay, now I'm really freaked out. And then they're like, oh, your toothbrush has arrived. You just need to open the door. And I open the door, and there is a robot that says, welcome, Courtney Mark, thank you very much. Here is please press this button to open the, top of the lid, of which is the head of the robot, to take out your toothbrush. And I was like, just so mesmerized by the robot that I almost forgot to take the toothbrush. And I think after that, I kind of was just like, well, where's his home and where is he going? And I was more interested in trying to find the robot and what was happening that like I forgot about the toothbrush. But I mean, to me, again, that just comes down to the quality of like, I just would rather, somebody knock on my door and say, here you go, here's your toothbrush. So when I walked in today and I was walking down the hall, I looked to my right and there is a whole shop right now that is all robotics and little machines that are basically for that. So how do you guys feel about this technology that sort of brings us into this future of robots starting to deliver things to us or guide us around? I mean, I've also seen these advertisements for, Expo 2020, the same thing, this family with the child, and then there's like R2D2 standing next to them. So how do you feel about that in hospitality, and do you think that that's something that will stick, or do you think it's more of a fad? Diane?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we speak with our global teams around where hospitality is going, and there are certain brands like, the Atari, Nickelodeon, that are focusing on gaming, and it certainly has its place for a certain demographic and age group, and I think it's quite gimmicky, is my personal view, because I think what we've spoken about is hospitality actually being very much about the human connection. And the human connection is all about experiences, and especially after the situation that we've been in, we're all craving that personal connection and connection with humans. Nothing beats like this, actually looking out and seeing all of you, because we've been so isolated. And we haven't had that ability to actually have conversations with real faces. We've become so used to actually seeing people on a screen, and that has created a disconnect, and a disconnect with empathy. And what is hospitality at its core? It's really about human experiences, making memories, crafting your own experiences, connecting with cultural aspects. So whilst I think it's interesting to push technology, which we've spoken about today, and I think it's certainly interesting to experiment. I think that's what it is, in my view. It's an experiment, and some things will stick, and others will just be like your experience with the toothbrush, which I love. We speak about food and beverage, and this is about robot carts delivering food to your table, which I know we speak about. But when our research institute gives us information on what guests actually want, which is global, I would say 90% have almost always commented on the food and beverage experience. They see it as art on a plate, and the human connection of it being locally produced, sourced, and handmade. Everything is going back to a little bit low tech, so the tech conversation is interesting. I see it as very much a moment in time.
Yeah, okay. So we seem to be kind of on the wire here with time, but I don't want to miss this question because Christian is here and we've got Alexandra here, and I really want to touch on, as is dining returned? Is F&B back? People are saying like, oh, it's like I've gone to a few restaurants here and there and da-da-da. But what are you guys doing right now? I mean, I know you're doing some insane programs at Hilton right now, innovation, reinvention. I think it's time. You guys are kind of that leading Thrive in a lot of hotels and resorts because, again, like Alexandra said before, you want your guests to stay and go to your restaurant and not go to the restaurant next door. So, Christian, what are some of the things that you guys are doing right now to keep, F&Bs at the heart of the travel and the heart of the excitement?
Well, I think we've spoke a lot about of emotions and experiences all over, and I think, has dining returned to your initial question? Absolutely. Dining has never gone away. We've just changed the behavior of how we dined. I think more from a safety aspect, from a being concerned aspect. And we actually, and talking very Middle East now, I think we've been all very lucky. We all follow friends, families in Europe, out in Australia. I mean, there's still, just New Zealand
still-
today has the highest numbers. So I think we absolutely have never seen it go away. What we have seen is, absolutely, especially within this chameleon concepts we have, I call them these monsters which do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and we don't have the light right, the atmosphere right to switch them into a proper lunch and dinner experience. Not going back there now. I think those have all come back. We have obviously, as a Hilton organization, has been definitely, and again, thanks to the leadership and the support, immediately reacted of putting a clean stay guarantee into place. And the clean stay is obviously a guarantee of safety and comfort. And I think that's where we within hotels had most probably a bit more benefit than freestanding operations. We've been a bit more agile and fast. And then one of the biggest things for me was never stop the engine. Don't slow down and say, and we have some regions where I felt, wow, they've fallen into that hole. We are in COVID, we can't do this, let's don't do anything. And I think certainly in Europe, substitution by governments has supported that, has stripped us down to the bone. And now we're all in the same situation again, we don't find people. But I think we have never stopped, especially in the Middle East. We have launched multiples. We have changed our philosophy for amplifying the room safety through clean stay, digital key, big topic.
Yeah.
But what we've started immediately creating within our F&B engine is created a concept called OTB, out of the box. And we've launched OTB Poke, OTB Burger, OTB Tacos, OTB Asia, and created those in a very simple package, cleaner version, biodegradable, no plastic to add, and have delivered those concepts and realized actually it wasn't just for the pandemic, it's actually we should work. I think the pandemic has helped us all to start thinking differently,
Right.
don't travel every week, make things more productive and focus what really is relevant, our customers.
Okay.
But we got to continue.
No,
now.
I think that's great, and I think there was a huge misconception that hospitality was hit the worst, but we as designers never stopped, and I think that I think as a design community in general, we work very well under those kind of tight, restrictive quarters, because what I think it did for a lot of people, and there's this a lot of talk about this creative jolt. Right, you for the first time, and I can't even remember. I was, yes, we're stuck at home, but as designers, we start thinking and we start creating, and our minds never stop. And I think yes, we had to slow down in the terms of occupancy, but I don't think that the design stopped. And David, Vida, how do you feel about that as an idea and a concept of like this conception of the hospitality industry was hit the hardest during the pandemic?
If I can say something, so I think you're right. I don't think we have slowed down in design terms. If anything has happened, we actually have changed how we think about the design. So whilst the design was already moving towards wellness and sustainability, what has really helped in a way during the last couple of years, people have stepped back and really re-evaluated the environments where they go, what they eat, how they exercise, what they want to achieve from the day. And that also kind of started driving what we want to achieve from the workplaces, what we want to achieve from hotels when we go and visit them, which means that in turn, that influence kind of fed back into the operators and the clients, and a lot of projects kind of paused and reevaluated the direction we were taking is the right direction for the future, and that's what we want to achieve. And that really helps to us as designers, because before it was just us pushing and wanting to achieve that wellness through correct lighting, correct design, introducing the art. But now there's an actual real drive through the certifications, through the bell, through the lead, where we can actually justify and kind of have reason to put all these things, not just for aesthetic purpose, but also for the health and just well-being overall. That means we can actually now force the artwork into spaces because that stimulates people's vision and mindset. We can engage a lot more local artists and local crafts to be introduced into spaces, because all of that creates that overall kind of holistic wellness experience. It's not just one thing, not just lighting, it's not just healthy materials. It's also engaging the community, it's engaging people who are coming. It's kind of activating that mindset and making people feel comfortable. And so yes, that's that.
Okay, great. So obviously we go out now in Dubai and we see that, even the environments that we've been to before have changed, and that's like about the social distancing. Even right now, if you look around the room, this is a very unusual instance where we are all kind of separated but together. So it's nice that we're together, but how is that impacting the spatial design of some of the restaurants, the lobbies? Di, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, I think, we, to just touch on what Vida said about, that situations like this and constraints create opportunities for innovation. But what's really interesting as part of that innovation is really seeing the operators and owners take on board the sustainability aspect, which I'll touch on the social distancing in a second. But the most counterintuitive aspect of sustainability is actually building the right size for the right application. And that really means taking on board the owner, the operator, the client, the designers, the lighting designers, like everybody needs to actually come together to really focus on these elements and to make sure that when we're designing spaces like meeting spaces, etc., where we have to take into account the social distancing, which I do think is just a blimp, I don't think it's a long-term story, is how can we actually design to make those kinds of spaces flexible? And that's where the innovation part comes in. And that's where I think, how do we design and create these spaces, like the kind of space that we're in, to almost become that black box theatre, where it can become something that we can adapt and change as the industry changes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Does anybody want to add to that before I open the floor for some questions? We are 4, 3, 2, 1 out of time, but I would like everybody to kind of respond to that and answer. And then if there's any questions from anybody that is attending, you've got a great group here to answer those. So. No?
Yeah, I think the last one was just buffets. We all in hotels are used to those 500 rooms, big buffets. And what was the first question everybody asked us? Will buffet disappear forever?
Right.
No,
I had
don't
the
think
same
so.
idea,
So I think it was all around eliminate all the buffets. But funny, we've seen it coming back. Well, what we've really actually achieved, and I'm super happy and excited about it, we've started as operators, most importantly, not to come out and say, I need 30 meters, 15 meters, heating lamps, open kitchens, then a live cooking station which hasn't got a proper exhaust most of the times and you smell like a breakfast egg all day. So I think we've actually, with that pandemic, excelled and realized, I can operate 400 rooms without the buffet. Mm-hmm. Now, if I keep the continental component as an offering table, that helps me to release the pressure because we all collapsed, let's all be honest. So we have really gone in a very short time what we've otherwise wouldn't have achieved, I would say, and you guys are more within that. In 10 years, 15 years, we wouldn't have achieved what we've achieved through the pandemic on this whole buffet philosophy. And I'm glad I see them going away. Open kitchens, interactive, flexible zones.
Exactly. I mean, there's something beautiful about being able to be served kind of like a tapas style, like here you go, and it's even more engaging than it was before. I mean, the buffet to me was always like, oh, but now the ones that I do see that are still holding on, and maybe that's just for like a breakfast time, they've got this kind of roped off, and it's being served by a person, and so it's a little bit more personal because instead of just picking
and cleaner.
And cleaner, would you like this? And I think it creates a lot of more opportunity for the operators and the staff to engage with the guests, actually. So,
and actually, the all-day dining is dead, right? After all this buffet concepts has been done and gone and forever, it disappeared.
2 words I fight every day internally still, because we're obviously a very solid culture, is the word all-day dining. It doesn't exist for me. It's an all-day destination concept, and we talk about dinner and lunch first before we talk breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
In other words, outlets.
Yeah, perfect.
Outlets is just absolutely. It's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's a grab and go, it's a coffee experience, not a lobby lounge.
Right.
So I think it's also utilizing certain terminologies where we relate back. We'll compare with the cool coffee brand on the high street, with the Zoomers, the Rockers, the Nusrets, and all those guys. They don't do anything different. They operate the same philosophy.
Right.
Just put the core
Exactly.
concept in. So, anyway.
Okay, well, thank you guys all for your amazing comments, and thank you so much for attending this. And can I open the floor for any questions? Is there any questions from anybody? Half mask on, half mask off, all the way in the back. Thank you.
Hi. I definitely am on the side of the romantic design and human experience and human connection. I'm a lighting designer. My name is Eleni Savidou. I'm a lighting designer, currently working actually for Lutron. Been in Dubai for a few years, like 6 years, working here as a lighting designer. So I'm talking of a perspective as well of a lighting designer, but as well as technology and manufacturer now in controls. So what I see though is that with the new generations and the millenniums, that they are actually coming now and taking over, let's say, our age, our generation, there is a definitely preference and appreciation for technology and controls, and more the digitization and virtual interaction more than the human interaction and experience and connection. So do you see that there would be a shift in the design thinking process, as well as for the hotels, for hospitality, as well as the experience in hospitality, bringing the example that you, Courtney, brought about the robot, and an excitement about this actually different approach in the hospitality experience than what we are used to as a generation?
That's an amazing question.
I think there should be a healthy balance in between the technology and personal experience. Like for example, our check-in is now on your mobile, so the key arrives to your mobile. In some countries, not everywhere, we can do that, but I think that really allows us to feel more free and not stand in the queue for hours and wait until they fill out the papers, and stand and wait with your luggage and your heavy coat. I don't know, sometimes when you travel to the winter countries, you're still waiting there. And in the same time, let's say if we take the social functions like the bar, I remember I saw the robot at the bar. It was on the GTEx exhibition maybe 2 years ago. So there was a robot and he was just moving around and making the cocktails for you. Instead of that, I would like to see a handsome guy with tattoo and smiling into me.
It's like a proper mixologist that's flipping the glasses like
And
cocktail.
handsome.
And handsome, yeah.
Can't flirt with a robot, I guess.
But aside from that, I think design needs to be inclusive.
Yeah.
The most successful design is when it actually caters to the entire market. So, how do we achieve that? And I think that's really our challenge, is how do we ensure that we achieve that?
That's great. Does anybody else like to ask a question? No? Okay. Shy group we have here. Okay, maybe it's the social distancing, but thank you very much, everybody that decided to attend, and thank you very much to this awesome panel. We'll be around if you want to ask us any questions on the side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.